This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to a Yanks Go Yard emergency podcast where we try to be first to the take train here as the New York Yankees have traded for all-star closer Devin Williams of the Milwaukee Brewers. Well, no longer. He's a Yankee. He replaces Clay Holmes 1-for-1. Was that a need? Absolutely. Some people being like, oh, I don't know, the Yankees, that's interesting. They need bats, but they for sure need a closer too. Luke Weaver was fantastic last year in limited duty. He stays. He will be around for 2025. So will Devin Williams, who's never posted an ERA above 2.50 in a full season in his career. This is also his walk year. There's nobody like him, and the Yankees have him. What did it cost? Nestor Cortez Jr., the left-handed starter. Obviously, they add Max Fried. They add rotation depth. That makes some of their original rotation depth expendable. We're all wondering who they're going to expend. It turns out Nestor, who was shopped at last year's trade deadline, is the first to go. It's also his walk year. That is not shocking. They tack on Caleb Durbin, who was the odds-on favorite, as Brian Cashman called him the other day, to be the Yankees' opening day starting second baseman. For now, he's just a top prospect who rose up the ranks last year, entered a different stratosphere, speed, a little bit of pop combo, AAA experience, no big league experience. We love Caleb Durbin. Handing the reins to Caleb Durbin as the opening day second baseman with Aaron Judge's and Garrett Cole's primes beginning to close was always a little risky. But what's even riskier is leaving second base completely empty. So where the hell do the Yankees go from here? I have some ideas. But Thomas Carinante, thank you for going live. Let's do it. Business. The Yankees are doing business.
The business we've dreamed of. Mark DeRosa on the final day of the winter meetings.
I don't know, bro. I'm thinking about the Yankees and Devin Williams, dude.
If they offer this trade, he said the interns, I don't know if you saw that segment, the interns pitched a bunch of trade packages. And he goes, man, if this GM proposed this to me, I'd call him up for a fight on his front lawn at midnight. It's so good. But the last day of the winter meetings, I'm laying on my couch, absolutely cooked. We had been working so much and waiting for the Yankees to make more moves on top of Max Fried. But yeah. Mark DeRosa's final take of the winter meetings was that Devin Williams would be traded to the Yankees. Was writing some weekend content to put that up on the site as a filler to for everybody to read and enjoy. And now I will not be, because it happened. Mark DeRosa was right. I think finally the Yankees have made a move that was an obvious fit. A lot of the times they make these trades, seems like they're trying to do something off the cuff, or they're trying to do what they're trying to buck conventional wisdom and go with another player that nobody expected. This perfect fit. When you have a team like the Brewers who are looking to retool, Brewers retool quickly, by the way. Like, this is their thing. Very smart organization, whether David Stearns is there or not. You have 1 year left of Devin Williams under arbitration. He becomes a free agent after 2025, but that $8.3 to $9 million salary for this coming season for a small to mid-market team just doesn't really make sense, and they figured they could get value elsewhere. Saw it last year with the Corbin Burns deal. We thought they had undersold Corbin Burns in that deal with the Orioles. It turns out maybe they didn't. I don't know. Either way, what this team prioritizes is defense and pitching, in also controllable talent. I think they got all of that in this deal, if the terms are true. Have we seen any other updates here in terms of the package?
Everybody is going forth with the same package. Williams for Nestor and Durbin. I believe that is.
Jeff Passan just tweeted it too. Okay.
Yeah.
How do I feel about this? So never going to complain, because we sit here all the time when we're saying, when are the Yankees going to make a move? When are they going to move on from these prospects that we don't really care about? Look, we liked Caleb Durbin a lot. I think that was one of the few prospects who we were just like, can we get this guy up now? Like, enough is enough. Dealt with some injuries this past season, was obviously blocked by Gleyber Torres and then the eventual Jazz Chisholm trade. So he won Arizona Fall League MVP, was one of the most promising all around, 5-tool prospects under the radar this past year when he wasn't dealing with injury. And we were like, great, Torres hitting free agency, perfect solution, slide this guy in there. You had reservations, though. You're still dealing with the closing window of Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole's primes. Don't know if you want to introduce another rookie into the mix. Anthony Volpe's been underwhelming. Jury's still out on Austin Wells, even though he kind of proved himself this past season. Consistency is key, though. Jury's a little bit still out on Jason Dominguez after what the organization did to him this past year after he dealt with injury. So introducing a fourth rookie into the mix would have been a little bit risky, I guess, but we were kind of all for it because Durbin is the grinder and the versatile talent that we thought was a good fit. Not going to complain trading him for somebody who actually solidifies the back end of the bullpen.
That's what you do. You either you use him, you see if he's the future, you see if he's a permanent solution at a cheap price if you want to take that risk, or you flip him for the best closer in baseball.
Yeah, and this is essentially a salary dump or salary swap. So Nestor was projected to make what? Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading the wrong projection. Nestor is expected to make $8.3 million in arbitration next year. Devin Williams is expected to make 8.4. So it is literally a salary swap. And then the Brewers get someone who's believed to be a major league ready talent for 2025 opening day. So I call this a win, right?
Mm-hmm.
You simply have to call it a win if you're if you're getting rid of a higher paid pitcher. The back end of the rotation, if you're looking at who we had, was always going to be tough to dump Marcus Stroman, which I don't think they're going to do this offseason. And then you look at, you have cost-controlled assets in Clark Schmidt and Luis Heel still. I don't know if this takes them out of the Kyle Tucker running. To me, it kind of might.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Those rumors are still swirling. We'll get to those in a second. But in terms of value for value, you essentially trade, in my opinion, Caleb Durbin for 1 year of Devin Williams in a window of contention. It's a deal you got to make 9 times out of 10, right?
Yeah, I am the biggest Caleb Durbin fan in the world. I was getting tired of reading some of the slander, to be honest, of people being like, oh, light stick, no bat, freaking slap hitter. I mean, in my opinion, the Yankees having their own Dustin Pedroia was extremely valuable given the swing and miss issues we've seen for this team over the past 4 or 5 years. That said, they are the New York Yankees. They do rely on star power. They don't have a lot of like the Dodgers, for example, who always have the top farm system in the game. And then you look at the lineup and you're like, it's all stars. They don't have prospects in here. You watch the Dodgers in the playoffs and you're like, how the fuck did Gavin Lux get in here? Like, you just don't understand. And he was a top prospect in baseball for like 2 years.
Number one. Crazy.
Yeah, literally top tier. And he's the only one that was able to work his way in there. And he's the worst everyday player in the Dodgers lineup. You watch that team and you go, I'm scared of all these people except for Gavin Lux. You begin to understand why the Dodgers don't weave those prospects into the lineup. And it's the same situation with the Yankees here. They could rely on kids, and then 6, mid-tier trade acquisitions. Nathaniel Lowe, we've talked about, or they could flip kids for bona fide stars and go as supernova as they can. Devin Williams is a rental. I don't know if they're going to extend a closer at the end of this. They rarely pay closers, but Luke Weaver's also a free agent at the end of the year, by the way. Mm-hmm. So you got to take care of somebody at the end of this season. Maybe it's a Weaver extension because that's cheaper. Maybe Williams is a perfect fit. You splurge on him. I don't know, but getting him in the door, less costly than Kyle Tucker. Now I'm going to spit. I want to be the first to, spit some of these potential ripple effects because I honestly think these could go down very quickly now that we have Devin Williams in the Bronx, because it's no secret that second base is now a black hole. Gleyber Torres came on offensively in August and September last year, but was below average all year long. This year, entering the offseason, I basically said, one of the best trades the Yankees can make, whatever it is replacing Gleyber Torres with anyone, Durbin, free agent, etc. There are possibilities external. Jorge Polanco is looking for a gig. That was someone that was floated earlier in the offseason. Brandon Lau with the Rays is somebody that we've thought about as maybe a first base filler. Now that they have a hole at second, there's a possibility there as well. But I can't stop thinking about Alex Bregman, a connection that hasn't made a lick of sense for the Yankees. And because of park factors in some ways, still does not. We know that he does not hit oppo home runs. I think the figure is 14 opposite field home runs in his career. We know left field, not as advantageous for Bregman at Yankee Stadium as it was at the Crawford boxes in Houston, or as it would be at Fenway Park, where you just bang the monster all day. The Red Sox have been connected to Bregman for a while, but apparently Craig Breslow and the number crunchers in the front office do not like him, and Alex Cora has been advocating for him. not usually a healthy spot when when the front office doesn't want you, when the manager does. It's not usually where you land. Who knows? It would make a lot of sense for the Boston Red Sox, but they'd have to move Devers around or move Bregman to second base. There have to be roles shifting. The Yankees have been connected to him all along, as have the Astros, as have the Red Sox. But the Red Sox, you've got internal turmoil and a position change. The Astros appear to be on the verge. This morning, the word was circling a Kyle Tucker trade with the Cubs. That trade includes Isaac Paredes and a third base prospect in Cam Smith. I don't think you center that whole trade around a slugging third baseman who's MLB ready if you also intend to meet Alex Bregman's asking price. Could be wrong. Don't think I'm wrong. That leaves just the Yankees, who made no sense and also had a position change involved in their pursuit of Bregman until 25 minutes ago when they traded Durbin. They haven't called Gleyber Torres back all offseason. He's talking to the Nationals and Angels and Blue Jays, should talk to the Mariners. There's no one lined up to take over second base for the Yankees now on a regular basis. It's not Oswaldo Cabrera. He's a super sub. Jazz Chisholm. What are the couple of things that Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman said at the winter meetings last week? Caleb Durbin is the odds-on favorite to be the starting second baseman. Brian Cashman said that. Jack Curry said he'd bet $1 on Yes Hot Stove that Durbin was on the opening day roster. I'll take that dollar now. He's going to be on the Brewers opening day roster. So they said that, and that ended up being gassing up Durbin's trade value because the Yankees got something done here. What else did they say? Jazz Chisholm, I'm not moving him. He's my third baseman. They also said Aaron Judge is going to be the right fielder. Interesting. It makes me question that as well, because now second base is wide open. Jazz Chisholm has played a lot more second base than third base. The Yankees are getting Max Fried, a ground ball specialist who needs the tightest possible infield behind him. Devin Williams, not quite the same. He's a swing and miss changeup guy. But Fried, you're adding Fried to the rotation. You're banking on contact being made. Strengthen the middle infield. Strengthen the corners. That screams Volpe stays at short. Jazz goes back to his natural position. He's controlled for the next 2 seasons. Bregman slides right into third. Third base defense immediately improved. First base, the Yankees were in on Christian Walker until Kyle Tucker became available. Now I would suspect that they are back in on Christian Walker, because if you're willing to sacrifice draft picks, why not just sacrifice a whole pile of draft picks? Fried, Walker, Bregman, win now. Weave Jason Dominguez into things. You still have your first rounder. You still have a couple of picks. But the Yankees never pick the top of the first round anyway, and their picks are always, when the Yankees don't build through the draft very well. So I was anti-Bregman all along, and now I'm in favor. Look at what we did here. I'm more excited by Bregman and Devin Williams than I am by Bellinger.
Bellinger by himself, or Bellinger and Devin Williams?
No. I'm more excited by Bregman and Devin Williams and Bellinger and Devin Williams, to be honest.
Okay. So I do have a thought, and I don't doubt any of this, but is there a world in which the Tucker rumors are still possible? Another pitcher is on the table for acquisition, and they start Oswald Peraza at second base opening day? I mean,
there's a world.
Because I don't look. If they are going to acquire another high salaried player, whether it's Tucker, whether it's Bellinger, or whether it's adding another pitcher, they need and look, Oswald Peraza has major league experience. We really liked his defense when he was up back in 2022, and then he got an unfair shake in 2023, in my opinion, with the Volpe mania, and then him just getting stashed away at AAA despite not really deserving that after what he had proved down the stretch in the postseason as a reliable defensive player. So I don't know if the Yankees have watched so many prospects' value turn to dust, and Oswald Peraza is among the most recent who it was just like, what are you doing, man? You had 2 top shortstop prospects. You had various opportunities to make trades during this window, and you held on to both of them, and you may have promoted the wrong one. Look, I love Anthony Volpe, but the offense is not there. It's not there, and I know he's young, but a lot of these other young talents who are coming up right away have the offensive talent, and there's no gap in the production. So I don't know if they made a mistake. I don't know if they just didn't maximize on one's trade value over the other, but you can't let that happen again. So the Yankees, more times than not, do sit there and they're like, okay, how do we right this wrong in a way where we can save? And I think that could be a potential option because Aaron Boone at the winter meetings, his blanket statement was, I want Jazz Chisholm on the infield dirt, and it doesn't matter if it's third. It doesn't matter if it's second. So I could see the Yankees sticking with Jazz at third, maybe spending on another pitcher, and then being able to justify trading Luis Gil to the Astros for Kyle Tucker. That's just an idea. The other option is obviously I like Bellinger regardless. They need another left-handed hitter. And if they are passing on Tucker and then you're talking about Bellinger at first, Bregman at third in that scenario, I think that's also doable. And then you just don't make the trade for Kyle Tucker. At the same time, though, I am more and more excited about Kyle Tucker just because of the all-around impact that he brings. And like we talked about last episode, there is no replacing Juan Soto. But Kyle Tucker is the closest thing to replacing Juan Soto. Kyle Tucker and one other all-star level player in Bellinger or Bregman, that replaces Juan Soto effectively and upgrades your defense and upgrades your athleticism. So I think at the very least, right now, the Yankees have a back-end bullpen solution, which was a major problem this past year. It ended up being Luke Weaver getting overused in the playoffs and Tommy Kahnle getting elevated into a high leverage role that I think many didn't see coming because of his lack of contributions over the last couple of years. This gives them more stability. This gives them more flexibility. Now it's a 2026 problem with you're losing both Williams and Weaver, but for right now, you can justify re-signing Jonathan Loaisiga, which is what we talked about last episode. It was like, is he going to be a luxury acquisition or are you going to rely on him to do the eighth? Now they could push Loaisiga down the pecking order a little bit and figure out this bullpen.
Couldn't be more of a luxury item at this point.
Yeah.
Williams, Weaver, I think they bring back Tim Hill. I think they take a chance on somebody. I'm the number one advocate for Tristan McKenzie in the bullpen, but obviously that's less of a priority now. We're getting all-stars instead. We don't need to do projects. In terms of Kyle Tucker, obviously the number one most impactful potential addition for the Yankees this offseason was Juan Soto. Number two, Kyle Tucker. No one's going to pretend differently and be like, Devin Williams and Fried is actually a superior offseason to Soto. No. And we're not going to sit here being like, Soto looked fat in that picture I saw. No, we wanted Juan Soto, okay? We all wanted Juan Soto.
I wanted fat Juan Soto, dude.
I actually prefer fat Juan
Fat
Soto.
Elvis? It's like
by the way, Juan Soto could have texted, by the way, if he really wanted to. Where was Juan Soto for Aaron Judge's MVP ceremony? He didn't want to say, hey, congrats, Cap. Okay, great.
Really
Goes
weird.
both ways. But Kyle Tucker is obviously the move, and I had written off Kyle Tucker as the Kyle Tucker coaster. I mean, now I'm out again. I don't think it's happening just because I don't think they have enough pitching depth to be able to trade Nestor and Heel comfortably, unless they want to sign Walker Buehler or replace.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What if you trade Spencer Jones and Luis Gil for Kyle Tucker, say fuck it, and then sign Walker Buehler?
I would 100% do that. They just have to sign Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
They can't stop mid. And they're pretty much all the way in at this point. Like, Dev, if you're trading for an all-star closer, then you're all in. That's not a half measure.
Yeah, especially expiring.
Yeah,
contract.
If you're signing Devin Williams, you might be random. Like, you could see the San Francisco Giants overpaying for Devin Williams because nobody's taking your money. But if you're trading for his last year, then you're dead serious and you're trying to compete and you're trying to get better. This lessens the chances of them trading Heel and Jones or Heel and Rice or whatever for Tucker. And it does feel like Jim Crane probably putting the kibosh on this. But I was all the way out. I assumed that the Cubs were on the verge of landing Tucker until late last night when Ken Rosenthal put up a column that was like, it's the ultimate Juan Soto punchback move or whatever. And it's like everything I read from earlier in the day indicated that the Cubs and Astros were almost meeting on this one and ready to finalize it. When I saw a Ken Rosenthal column pop up on Tucker, I assumed it was the column that was like, the trade is completed. Like the Cubs and Astros have agreed to a trade. And when I saw that it was a Yankee-centric article, I was like, hold the phone. I did a cartoon face shake. I couldn't believe it. So that reopened the door, and this one closes it slightly, unless they're willing to make additional moves on the back end of that. They still need a first baseman. They still need a lot of things. They need a second baseman and a first baseman, or a third baseman and a first baseman. I'm in favor of Bregman, and I wasn't a couple of days ago. Last offseason, I was on the record saying not a Cody Bellinger fan, but if you're adding all of these pieces, and Bellinger is just one of the pieces. Last year, Bellinger's down year was 111 OPS plus. The year before, he was an MVP candidate. And last year, Wrigley, he was above average offensively, and he's a good defender. You're adding that in Alex Verdugo's place, huge win, as long as the Cubs pay down some of that contract. And Will Warren was the guy who ended up in those trade talks yesterday. And people are split on Will Warren. I think prospect evaluators still believe in him. For me, he's more of a great sweeper rather than a great pitcher. Like, I understand the stuff is amazing, and if you've never watched Will Warren, then you're definitely coming at me from another organization saying I can fix him. And I hear you on that, but it's not like the Yankees have slouches in the pitching lab department, and Will Warren got no results at AAA, got called up last year a little bit too early, and got no results at the major league level. He was an auto loss. And it's a rookie year. Things change year over year, but I saw what I saw. If Will Warren's what I'm giving up for Cody Bellinger, I'll do that. I'm not even over the moon for Bellinger. I just think best case is absurd. Best case is excellent defense in left field or at first base and a 140 OPS plus, and he's abusing the short porch. And you're like, well, this is a marriage and a match made in heaven, and thank God we have this guy for a couple years. Worst case is he's slightly above league average, which is an upgrade from last year, but you paid a pretty hefty cost, and his contract is large. So the worst case isn't even that awful. I don't think there's a world where he's got an 80 WRC plus, and he just smells terrible out there. But I do think, look, if it's Will Warren for Bellinger, the Cubs eat a lot of cash. We'll be probably throwing a low-level prospect as well. From what I've heard, Stroman is not going back there, like by any means. That ended very poorly. I would suspect that as Tucker intensifies and as the Cubs can get, I still think Cubs Tucker, especially now, and I still think Yankees Bellinger. Just don't do the Bellinger deal first. Don't let them get Tucker because you took Bellinger's money off their books. Make them ante up and give all they can for Kyle Tucker so that it's at least a little bit painful. And then when they're done pulling that together, come back and circle back and say, all right, now we'll take Cody. Now we get it. We'll help you.
Yeah, I'm trying to wonder if that actually has anything to do with it, because if the Cubs are looking to get rid of committed money, I'm not sure Cody Bellinger is the option there. I think it's more Seiya Suzuki, and supposedly the Astros weren't interested in Seiya Suzuki, or at least that version of the trade package.
Or he won't waive the no trade.
Yeah.
Like, I just think he's not a part of it.
Yeah, so I'm wondering because it's funny, all these teams are talking, and the Cubs are probably treading lightly to figure out what makes the most sense for the Cubs. Man, I mean, you can't sit there as a big market team and wait for a money clearing move to go after a superstar player. That's ridiculous to me, but I guess it is what it is. In terms of Bellinger, I was not a fan of Bellinger on a long-term contract playing center field. I am a very big fan of Cody Bellinger on a short-term contract bouncing between first base and center field or left field or whatever it is. So if, look, like you said, if Will Warren is the person of interest for the Cubs, you do that. You do it right now. I don't dislike Will Warren. I saw the early returns. The early returns were about as bad as they're ever going to get. Yeah. And that just doesn't give me hope for at least a large enough leap next year for it to be impactful. Again, the window is 2 to 3 years. If Will Warren is getting off to a slow start in 2025, to me, he's useless for what this team needs in the short term. If you go out and get Kyle Tucker and you can manage to get Cody Bellinger, or if you get Kyle Tucker first, do the Cubs sit there and say, now we're not trading you Cody Bellinger? So there's aspects of that definitely need to be hammered out. But I think as of right now, either you come away with it's a win, and then you sit back, and if you don't have for example, a first base solution or a third base solution, the options still remain. I don't know what the Alex Bregman contract situation would look like. Supposedly it's in the $200 million range. I don't know or think the Yankees would be willing to spend that. Perhaps Scott Boras would figure out some sort of agreement there that could get Bregman paid and help the Yankees with flexibility, because we did the man a solid with the Carlos Rodon deal. We did the man a solid being the second in command negotiating chip for Juan Soto, who landed the highest contract in MLB. After all those details came out, it was very clear that the Yankees all the teams were being used. In my opinion, there was a back end deal there between Cohen and Boris. Yeah. Boris knowing that Cohen was going to pay the most money. Cohen saying, I need to get this deal done. You need to let me know what other teams are offering. Brian Cashman came out and said that they never knew what the Mets were offering. Boris was just instructing new offers to be submitted. Yeah. He let you know if you needed to go a little bit higher or not. Yankees in the end were not afforded an opportunity to match. I think that was clear what had happened there. So maybe that helps us with the Bregman deal. I don't know. But I'm liking where the Yankees stand right now in terms of their flexibility. I don't think that this takes them out of the running for a Kyle Tucker trade. I just think this helps. It requires more maneuvering from a starting pitching standpoint. And you look at the remaining market. First of all, there's still starting pitchers that you might be able to trade for, like back end guys that, a couple of one top 15 or a couple top 20 prospects to get it done. See ya. But in terms of free agency, you got Jack Flaherty. I think you want somebody on a shorter term deal than that. Mm-hmm. Kyle Gibson, who I love. 4-5, going to eat 150 innings for you, going to be able to pitch in the postseason for you. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the move. You got Verlander, who I don't like. You have Minaya, who is going to command a lot of money and who I also don't really like. You have Nick Pivetta, who I absolutely despise and will never want him on my team. Andrew Heaney, absolutely not. Charlie Morton, potential option. Probably not, though. Jose Quintana, I think at least intriguing, but you already have two lefties, so that might be out. And the list gets a little bit more unfavorable as you go down. But I'm looking at Gibson if they need to make this deal with the Astros and Kyle Tucker's still held in high regard and it's Luis Gil or bust over there. And I think that's a fair trade-off. Again, you get Kyle Gibson on a 2-year deal. It falls in line with this window. And then the key is the international prospects, the next couple of drafts, and then developing whatever talent is left in the farm system. The Yankees have cleared paths for the guys that they believe in. Are they good? Remains to be seen, but they've at least prioritized that aspect of it. So looking at it right now, there is a lot of flexibility with what they can do. They, in my opinion, shored up the most questionable aspect of the roster in the bullpen because of how overused it was last offseason. And now you can go out. Why is this Tim Hill deal not done? It's $4 million. Just to give him the $4 million. It's very easy to do.
It's not hard.
Yeah, you get Tim Hill back in the mix. You get Jonathan Loaisiga back in the mix. You have Luke Weaver. Supposedly they're still interested in Tommy Kahnle, but I think that market might get a little bit out of hand. To me, the heavy lifting they need one more big move, and the heavy lifting is done. They have the options at third base and first base in free agency. They have the trade options for the outfield if they really needed it. So I got to tip my cap here because I thought this was an obvious trade that the Yankees were going to willingly avoid for the sake of willingly avoiding it. And now we're sitting here. I think the trade package is fair. It might hurt a little bit, but again, you have to give to get. And now they could focus elsewhere, and maybe this expedites one of these other two moves. And I'm fine with either of them. If you get Bellinger, great. Then I think you got to sign Bregman. If you get Tucker, I think you're kind of good. And then you can mess with Jazz and Peraza in the infield and then explore options on the trade market as the year goes on. I know the Yankees really aren't good at doing that, but you have to look at a team like the Padres, who are currently kind of deconstructing their roster. Maybe they'd be willing to trade Jake Cronenworth, and that would give the Yankees a little bit more of a flexible infield. Maybe they'd be willing to trade Luis Ariz. Didn't he used to play second base, and he doesn't anymore?
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah, now he plays first base, but maybe you trade for a Luis Ariz. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I think now there's plenty of options, and you go down the list. But this aggression here with getting this done and kind of minimizing the damage and getting a potential sunk cost off the books. Like, Brewers fans, I hope you're excited. I don't blame you for being excited. You knew Devin Williams was going to get traded. You wanted a good package in return. We're high on Caleb Durbin. Nestor Cortez just dealt with forearm injuries, and we've watched the regression
Yeah.
And look, a solid piece. I don't know how much more he could be tinkered with in terms of maximizing his efficiency, but good luck. I'm happy for what Nestor has done here, but I think it was a ticking time bomb, whether it was he was departing at the end of the season or we're looking at a bigger regression or potential injury.
Yeah, and what were the Nestor rumors last year at the deadline, especially as the prices were rising? It was Nestor for Max Kepler. Like, this is so much better. It's crazy. Like, I'm sorry. I was not interested in the Nestor Cortez. There was a Nestor Tommy Edman talk too, yes, and that would have been fun, but it all fell apart. And obviously
was there?
Yeah, there.
When was it? Oh, last year.
Last deadline.
I was like, they're not. They just
signed
Tommy.
Not recently. I mean, I'm surprised that the Brewers opt for a rental starter here. In addition, they must have really loved Durbin, but they also have endless infield guys like Joey Ortiz, Terang. I mean, I guess that's not endless. There's an end to it, and they lose Willy Adames, so somebody's got to go to short. But Durbin to third, Joey Ortiz to short. I guess we're moving names around. The Brewers are the same every year, different names, same competent level of production. And if Nestor's health is there, then yeah, I would bet in the NL Central he puts up an ERA between 3.5 and 4 and gives you 150 to 170 innings, and that's totally good. And there will be people out there who say never trade a 170 inning starting pitcher for a 70 inning closer. Just never do it, and then add Durbin. That's bad. I hear you. I do. I understand. But the Yankees had upgraded Nestor's spot with Max Fried in the long term. And so in terms of who I want on the team this year, sixth starter Nestor, agitated. We've already seen Nestor with, last year when he got into that, I don't know what he tweeted during the All-Star game. Everybody's jealous of us. They want to be us. And I'm blessed to be able to put on the pinstripes, have a chance to compete every year. And he got made fun of. And then his first start out of the break, he got bashed by the Rays. Like, he got in his own head a little bit. And it's, got to tip the cap to Nestor. Had a great Yankee career, certainly more than just a quirk. People found him annoying. People outside the organization thought the leg kicks and it was too goofy. It was 3 levels too goofy. I hear you all, but he made something out of nothing. And if he has a great year in Milwaukee, he's going to have a chance to get paid. He also, for all of the laughs about his tweet at the All-Star, nobody would have laughed at that if he said Red Sox, not Yankees, by the way. Everybody laughs at the Yankees. Everybody laughs at the Yankees for doing things.
Me too.
That they would appreciate if they had been done by other teams. If Nestor was a Met and he tweeted, everybody's jealous of the Mets this year, then America would have said, hell yeah, be proud of your guys or whatever. But he was a Yankee, so everybody laughed at him. His last ever appearance in a Yankees uniform was on the mound at Dodger Stadium after coming back too quickly from an elbow issue and inducing one of the most important outs in Yankees World Series history, Shohei Ohtani into the left field corner, and then surrendering one of the most devastating opposing home runs in World Series history. So just a patently absurd inning, and we wondered, is that the last time we'll see him, especially because we didn't know what the health of the elbow was like. And again, the worst case scenario would be trading him here to Milwaukee and the elbow's not right and he's not really able to go and he can't give them what he gave us. But I think there's value here in both of the 1-year rentals exchanged. The Brewers got a good one in their mold. Caleb Durbin is a classic Brewer. I think the reason all along we didn't buy the Yankees hype, opening day second baseman hype, what have you, is because it would be amazing if the Yankees had a Dustin Pedroia type. They just never do. And maybe that Dustin Pedroia type is Alex Bregman moving forward because he's not going to have the same power he did in Houston. He's not going to age. The power part of the bell curve is trending down, but leadership, defense, quick hands, intangibles. The difference between Alex Bregman at third and Jazz Chisholm at third. Again, Jazz ruled last year, learning third base on the fly, but give me a fucking break. Like fielding bunts, the natural tendencies of a third baseman, cat-like quickness, what have you. Alex Bregman in a different league. This is what he does. He's been training his whole life to do this. Jazz Chisholm just picked it up randomly last year. So I wasn't on board with Bregman until right now. I want to send heartfelt farewells to Nestor and Durbin, even though Nestor's career ended a little bit colder in the Bronx. But wow, that is just we were expecting to come on today and do sort of a breaking down of the end of the Kyle Tucker trade conversation.
Yeah.
Barely relevant at this point because this is just one of the most surprising trades of recent vintage for the Yankees.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what to expect now. I like the way this is going. Last offseason, it was very predictable. Remember, we're like, well, we're getting Juan Soto. I mean, nobody else has the assets to do it. Feels like it's telegraphed. And then there were little moves in between that were largely uninspiring. Now you have the urgency after Juan Soto leaves, after that fucking Mets conference, man. I mean, I am happy for the Mets.
We do have to talk a little bit about
I'm
that.
happy for the Mets. I'm happy for Juan Soto for getting paid, but like it couldn't have been more obvious. He always wanted to leave. He was always going for the most money. Steve Cohen always had the edge here and said he hasn't talked to any of his Yankees teammates since Game 5 of the World Series. Like, come the fuck on, dude.
I mean, come the fuck on, because you want to talk about something people make fun of the Yankees. The Nestor tweet, like he gets laughed at because he's a Yankee. He wouldn't get laughed at if he was in a different org. Juan Soto, hey, have you spoken to any of your Yankees teammates since the end of the World Series? Juan Soto says no, and everyone's immediately like KFC Barstool. Oh my God, the Yankees didn't even try to recruit him. Oh my God, what a joke! And just, hey, phones work both ways. Like, you know who could have texted the Yankees? Juan Soto, but he didn't do that. So either he told his teammates, hey, can you give me a little bit of space? Or he declined to reach out, or the whole Yankees clubhouse saw something last year and said, you know what? I don't really want to talk to this guy. All of these are possibilities, but in no way was it just like the Yankees being like, oh, I forgot to talk to Juan Soto. I meant to, and I forgot. I'm an idiot. I hope he didn't sign. He did? Oh, no. Like, that's not what happened. And Twitter's going to do what they're going to do, but give me a break.
And it's funny, people think, like, the executive suite also made the difference in negotiations. It didn't. And I get Trevor Plouffe actually had a good point yesterday. I was listening to Talking Baseball, and the Yankees' cold corporate pitches, we know, are a reality. Mm-hmm. They like to do business their way. They have guidelines. They draw lines in the sand. It is what it is, you know? And I think at some point there needs to be a bend. They need to bend in a certain direction. There needs to be some flexibility with that, especially as we head into a newer age. Not every player is going to be of Aaron Judge's caliber with loyalty or with willingness to go back with a final offer. Not every free agent is going to do that. So Trevor Plouffe was talking about, like, the Mets definitely made a more warm pitch. I think a lot of the details that came out of the Mets presser as well, like they talked about how it was very a family-oriented environment.
When he tapped John Heyman on his way in. Yeah.
They were building towards something, as opposed to the Yankees, who were like, it's already been built. You could be a part of it, or you don't have to be. It is what it is.
It's going to be there forever, too. It's going to be built there for all of time.
So I get how someone, and again, remember, Soto is young. Soto is 26 years old. Remember when you were 26? No. You were maybe more hopeful. You had a more positive outlook on the world. You weren't as pessimistic. You weren't as jaded. So maybe Juan Soto was looking for a more hopeful future and viewed the Mets as a little bit more fun, a little bit more welcoming, a little bit more warm. I don't know. I think that all plays into it, and you cannot deny that all of these were factors in it. But give me an actual break if you thought that aspect of it, the Yankees didn't reach out to him for 6 weeks. Oh my God, how stupid could they be? Or that the executive suite made the difference here. There are two things that made a difference here. One, I think, was the pitch and the difference between organizations, and the fact that one organization had a perennial MVP and face of the franchise and the other didn't. And two was that there were $45 million extra dollars on the table, plus all of the other perks that came with it. So when you're talking about that large of a percentage of increase of earnings over the next 15 years, that's obviously going to weigh into it, with all the other factors probably playing a role. But I didn't like the fact that it was kind of always telegraphed that he maybe wanted to leave. That sucks. And I didn't like the fact that he hasn't talked to any of his teammates that he spent a year with, whether that was his fault or anybody else's fault. Very hard to believe to me that Aaron Judge didn't reach out to him. Very hard to believe that Gleyber Torres didn't reach out to him. Those guys were apparently boys all year. Mm-hmm. They stopped being boys at the end of the season. Very suspicious with all this stuff. It rubs me the wrong way because I understand baseball is a business, but when it is what it is, right? Shohei Ohtani free agency. You know what's happening. He's getting paid a shit ton of money. Nothing else really matters. Juan Soto, he's getting paid a shit ton of money. He's getting the best offers out there forever. Like, it's not a closer to the vest free agency type situation where it's like you're trying to maximize the market for third baseman and you want to get your guy the highest AAV and you want to make sure he's taken care of and you know that he's aging a little bit, but you want to get those years. Like, it's not like that. This was a completely different scenario. There was no need for, I guess, the people being siphoned off or discussions not being had. Like, this has Scott Boras written all over it for me. But in my opinion now, it's a little bit more personal. The Subway Series is going to be more important to Yankees fans now after what we saw in that press conference. But nonetheless, now that we've moved on from all this, I am liking where the Yankees are. I'm no longer coping with the loss of Juan Soto. It is what it is. To me now, it always felt like it was going to happen. Now the reality has struck that was always the truth. Move on. Devin Williams, get somebody else. You're probably better off than last year.
No, you're coping. Sorry, you're talking about it. So coping. Gary Phillips from the Daily News today talked to Brian Cashman about getting CC Sabathia. He was asked about the Soto Suite story. Quote, "A lot was made of me closing out the Sabathia recruitment and flying into the home. It was like John Calipari going into the home and closing a recruit. And a lot of stories were generated from that. But the truth of the matter is I hit him over the head with a big bunch of cash. And the Mets did that to Juan Soto as well. They showed him a video of him having a statue because they had to. Because the Yankees have Monument Park and he knows what that looks like. What's the Mets equivalent of Monument Park? I don't know. We'll make you a statue.
There was the joke. They put his face on the Joker jumping down all the cash.
Yeah, the Mets were really
like,
kind
this
to
could
his
be
family.
you.
The Mets were really kind to his family. I'm sure they were really kind to his family.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that's all true. But that quote we read on yesterday's show from Soto's dad, basically saying the Yankees are the gold standard. His time here was incredible. Like, his dad was celebrating on the field after the ALDS and ALCS. Bob Clappish put out a column today saying Soto was in the locker room celebrating for 5 minutes at the start of the champagne celebration and then stopped. I mean, not true. Chris Kirshner said no. He was there the entire time. I'm beyond done with it. Good for Soto getting his bag, which is what he wanted, but that's what he wanted. He again too wanted the most money, got it. Thinks the Mets have a brighter future than the Yankees. A little short-sighted, but if you want to bet that way and you believe in Steve Cohen, sure, I'll hear it out. I think both have really bright futures. I think people discounting the Yankees' future to hype up the Mets is ridiculous. I think both teams are going to be very good over the next decade plus.
I think so too.
But the idea, and he reacted to it, and he said what he had to say because he's on the Mets now. But all of this conversation about New York being a Mets town that's now resurfacing, I mean, the Yankees are the most storied franchise in baseball history. New York is a both teams town when both teams are winning. The Bronx is crazy. Flushing is crazy. Mets fans will be loud when the Mets are winning. Yankee fans will be loud when the Yankees are winning, although Yankee fans do act a bit like they've been here more often because they have. So Met fans winning, it's a rarer thing. They are a little louder. It's not even talking dismissively. Like, you notice Met fans more when they're in the middle of an October run because they haven't had as many chances to do that. So if the Mets win the World Series, New York's going to go crazy. No one's going to feel like a second-class citizen. But if the Yankees win the World Series, the celebration is not going to be muted because it wasn't the Mets. There was a lot of discourse online in October. The most classic Mets fan example of all time. There was a tweet going viral from a Mets fan that was like, is it just me or is this Mets playoff run getting a little more attention in New York than the Yankees playoff run? And it's like, it's just you because all your friends are Mets fans. Like, no kidding. Like, you talk to Mets fans every day. They're like, hey, how about those Mets? You talk to Yankee fans. They're like, the Yankees are sick. That's how it works. Like, you live in a Mets bubble. The Mets are extremely popular. The Yankees are extremely popular. New York is a who just won the World Series town. If either one wins, the streets will go crazy. Juan Soto is a great chance to do that, and the Yankees are proving that they do as well. Their work is a little bit more complex because whoever signed Juan Soto just had Juan Soto, generational talent, future MVP, less likely now that he's in the same league as Shohei Ohtani, but future MVP, Hall of Famer, inner circle. Now, the Yankees had to go get it all. Best available closer. Done. Devin Williams, got it. Best available starting pitcher, either Burns or Fried, done. Got Fried, got the lefty, got the player they believe in. Burns' spin rate, whatever was trending down. They like the left-hander. They like the craftiness. They're betting on the craftiness to age. They got to beef up that infield defense. Done. 2 big targets. Jonathan Loaizaga, a smaller target. Elmer Rodriguez, the Red Sox prospect, smaller target. Now they're going to make a pitch to Roki Sasaki. That'll be tough, but they're going to make a pitch to get Kyle Tucker. That'll be tough.
Forgot about that. You can still deal Luis Heel and get Roki Sasaki. I know that's a risk, but you could do it. Though.
That would
be that major upgrade.
They plan to be involved, so we'll see. Bellinger, distinct possibility. Could be by end of week. Christian Walker, distinct possibility. They could circle back there. Maybe they tack Ryan Presley's money onto a Kyle Tucker trade, and all of a sudden their price is a little bit less, and it's a financial burden, and they have Weaver, Presley, Williams, Ian Hamilton at the back end of the bullpen. How about that? There are options. Pair Nico Horner to Cody Bellinger. Get Alex Bregman and move Jazz to second. Myriad of Low, Lau, like Polanco. We threw them all out there earlier in the pod. Josh Naylor. Like, there's a lot they can do, and they're not going to stop now because Brian Cashman, criticize him if you want, and I have criticized him plenty and will criticize him more, and so have you, and we all have. But one thing Brian Cashman is not is just outright foolish where he's going to create holes and not fill them.
Yes.
He might be inactive. He might believe too much in the guys in that locker room, but there's no guy in that locker room playing second base. The Brian Cashman move would be to have Gleyber Torres and just instead of being creative, say, well, we believe in Gleyber bouncing back. It's very un-Cashman like to not have a second baseman and not have a first baseman and not have a left fielder. They're going to have those things very shortly by end of offseason. And they got average production at second, terrible production at first, no home runs from the summer on through end of year from first base. DJ LeMahieu was their last home run via first baseman on July 31st. That can't happen again. Alex Verdugo and his 85 WRC plus in left field cannot happen again. The only one you can make an argument for a rookie at this point in time, I think, is Ben Rice at first. But I would still suspect that they're going to get veteran presences for all 3 of those positions. So stay tuned. And a veteran could be Kyle Tucker. I'm not talking about a 35-year-old.
I'm having sick thoughts of I don't know why I'm now wavering. Like I can totally see Ben Rice and Oswald Peraza at first and second starting opening day. Like, they are not bad players. They have proved there are going to be flaws. They're young. They proved enough. I don't think it's the right move, but I could see it happening. And then you splurge on Bregman and Bellinger, or Bregman and Tucker. Oh no, in this situation you wouldn't get Bregman because Jazz would have to play third. But you splurge on Tucker or Bellinger, and then you upgrade the pitching. I don't know, but I'm starting to think, and I do like those options as depth, but then you kind of have to clear out the depth here. Last thing we should probably talk about, because we're rolling. It's a good time. You guys having fun?
Why not? Who's chilling? Who's having fun?
Yeah, so the depth here we have to consider is they still have 2 catchers on the 40-man that they don't need 4. They probably need 3. So you get rid of 1. That's got to be a trade. And then you have Durbin, who's gone. You have Oswaldo. You have DJ. You have Peraza. You have Ben Rice. And you have Vivas.
Yeah.
Yorbit Vivas.
Vivas.
To me, he has no role. Oswaldo Cabrera is the utility player. Should be the first guy off the bench. And then outfield, you have Everson Pereira and Trent Grisham. Mm-hmm. So one of those guys is staying, and I would bet that it's Grisham. Pereira gained an extra year of club control this offseason. That was a little bit under the radar. Maybe other teams value that. I don't know. But if you're talking about bringing in 1 or 2 more guys, you're going to have to talk about getting rid of a bunch more because, A, you have to create playing time for the guys on the bench. B, there's the reality of these fringe major leaguers / prospects that either you need to invest in them or you need to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And then C, there's salary concerns. Like, are you going to keep Trent Grisham around for $5+ million when he's maybe not even a 4th outfielder, depending on who you acquire? Are you going to keep DJ LeMahieu around? Like Aaron Boone talked about him He's like, I wouldn't doubt he rebounds, but it's all about health. And it's like, yeah, it's all about health. It's not about anything else. It's only about health. So you can't bet that he rebounds because he has not rebounded from a health standpoint since he got injured in 2021. It's been the same story for 4 years, 2021, 2022, so 4 years, 4 years, math. But there's all this roster stuff that needs to be taken care of. And then you look at adding another pitcher. There are guys to be squeezed off here. Cody Poteet, you keeping him? Will Warren, we just talked about him being involved in trade rumors. Mark Leiter Jr., how much time are you willing to spend there? Yoendrys Gomez, Yeri De Los Santos, blah, blah, blah. JT Brubaker, Clayton Beater. So it's just the beginning, man.
There's so much. Clayton Beater is the new guy who look, you question everything. Question everything.
Be inquisitive.
X-Files style. Like, I was just told Clayton Beater is going to make the opening day roster out of the bullpen.
Possible.
Well, I was just told that Caleb Durbin is going to be our starting fucking second baseman, and he's not. So
possible.
Where are we at? Like, is Clayton Beater being gassed up? Do the Houston Astros think Clayton Beater is a starter? Do the Chicago Cubs like Clayton Beater? The Cubs keep taking these mid-tier Yankees pitching prospects. Like, the Cubs took Hayden Wesneski for Scott Efros, who, by the way, Scott Efros is also in this bullpen.
Oh, God.
We still have him. But they go ahead. Okay, you want our 5 years of controllable bullpen guy? We'll take Hayden Wesneski from you. He's like your 8th best prospect, but he's got nasty stuff. That's very much like Will Warren. That's very much like Clayton Beater. We could interest the Cubs in those guys. Maybe we're expanding that package to include Nico Horner as we get Cody Bellinger. I can't even think about Roki Sasaki right now. I saw what his agent said about how he hates the media, and there's obviously media in New York, but also there's media everywhere. And somebody asked him about, does he fit in New York? And his agent said he could see him thriving in New York. So there's a lot of mixed messages going around here. Either way, I'm hyped. How could you not be hyped?
I'm hyped. Consider me hyped. Consider me not angry at Brian Cashman for now. Deserves credit where credit's due. I know he didn't have really a hand in the Soto negotiations. That was just coming down to how far Hal Steinbrenner was willing to go and the openness and communication with Scott Boras. So it is what it is. Again, we said the next best thing for this team to do is to be as aggressive as they could possibly be and by getting win now players for this next 2 to 3 year window. Do they extend Devin Williams? Probably not. But guess what? They don't need to, because if they win next year, it doesn't matter. Then they could figure out everything after that. So I like the urgency factor of it. We talked about it last year. Like, Juan Soto only had 1 year and everyone's like, oh man, you're only going to have him for 1 year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why not? One of the best players in the league for 1 year. I think that creates urgency with everybody else. All Yankees fans have even rival Yankees fans come, oh, this team has no urgency. They're sloppy. They're asleep at the wheel. Yeah. Wake them up. Mm-hmm. Wake them up. Hey, we have this guy for 1 year. 1 year. And that's it. There is nothing guaranteed beyond that. Do you want to win now, or do you want to be in a position next year where we're scrambling for roster pieces, or we're upending the clubhouse by having these guys leave and not being able to keep them? So I like the strategy. I like lighting a fire under them and having them realize, like, it's now or never, man. There's no other scenario. It's either you figure out how to perform in October, you work with the guys around you, you develop relationships fast, you build that camaraderie, or we're back at square one next year. You want to do this all over again? Don't think you do. So I like the strategy that they're going with right now. I want more aggression, and I think it's to come. But yeah, early returns here. You have to be excited as a Yankee fan. If you're not, you're just a complainer. And I can also understand that, because I like complaining.
Well, I hear you. And there'll be plenty of complaining as the season goes on. But hey, look, maybe if the Yankees clubhouse culture is so terrible, just keep getting guys in here for 1 year at a time. You can never pick up on it. It's like, wait a second, is this clubhouse culture actually suck? Anyway, I'm leaving. Like, it doesn't matter. Just keep circling these 1 year guys in. Keep moving Ryan's office into the closet. Keep adding temps. Like, do what you're going to do. We will see you on Monday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern, pending more crazy stuff. I mean, who knows? Alex Bregman could sign later today, and the Kyle Tucker thing could go down later today. We wish Nestor and Caleb Durbin well. Caleb Durbin, friend of the show, was on this podcast. Might text him. Might say what's up. He invited us to Scranton last year. We never made it. Now he plays for the Milwaukee Brewers. So what the hell? Maybe he's a Nashville Sound. We all go to Nashville. But shout out to the guys the Yankees gave up. Devin Williams is one hell of an addition. Battle tested. Yes, I know that people are going to be pointing to the playoff numbers. Well aware. But let's get to the playoffs, and then let's up that sample size a little bit, shall we? Because there's not really a lot to judge there. He pitched in 2 games against the Mets, and he pitched in 1 against Arizona. The Brewers don't get out of that silly little wild card round. I wish they did. I like the Brewers.
Yeah.
I like the city of Milwaukee, but they can't get past that little 2 out of 3.
If the Mets get eliminated by the Brewers and Devin Williams doesn't give up that homer, does Juan Soto sign there? You have to wonder.
Probably not.
Devin Williams long game.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Look what he did.
Look at that.
Injuries are also a concern here. He was injured a little bit last year, right?
Everyone's always injured. He was injured for a large portion of last year, yes.
Yeah, he only pitched 20-something innings.
Yeah. 38 Ks in 22 innings, though.
Pretty sick. I'm all for it, though.
A lot of Ks.
All for
it. It's a risk you take, and Max Manus also tweeted the Tanner Scott trade package. Like 2 months of Tanner Scott, the Padres gave up their like 2, 3, 6, and 8 prospects for 2 months of Tanner Scott. The Yankees paying Devin Williams $7.5 million, and all they had to do was trade a pitcher they definitely wanted to get rid of, and also a second baseman who they believe in feels like a really nice player and is probably going to be a really nice player in Milwaukee. But now they double down and go get some proven talent at second base. Go forth, figure it out, Brian Cashman. We actually do kind of have faith in you at this point. Either way, I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a hectic week. You guys are loyal, popping in every day with us. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. There is a ton of content, a ton. We literally can't stop writing it.
No.
They're all demanding it. Flying off the shelves. We have stuff all weekend for you to read. We're going to be around all weekend in case any news breaks. And
it will.
And yeah, it certainly will. I think something else will be going down perhaps tonight. But either way, thank you guys again. We'll talk to you for real. I mean, maybe there's an emergency weekend pod if something happens. I don't know. But Monday for sure, 2 p.m. Eastern live right here, recapping everything else that has happened. Let's go Yanks. Pretty exciting. Moves to come. Here we go.
Moves to come. Can't stop now. Why would you? We will see you on Monday's show with, I think, honestly, more stuff. And if not from us, Kyle Tucker probably moves. You got to stay agile, stay limber. There's nothing like December. We'll see you on Monday's show.